Okay. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always to maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. If anyone here represents a media agency, please contact Jeff R. Okay. The members of the North Central Indiana area of Narcotics Anonymous welcomes you to the fourth annual We Grow with Love convention. We would like to thank you for joining us in this celebration of recovery. We are deeply grateful to Narcotics Anonymous and find great joy in being able to express our gratitude here with you, our family. In Narcotics Anonymous, we are certain that when we come together to share our lives and our love with each other, a miracle happens. Our recovery takes hard work, courage, and commitment. Those are the things that carry us through as we see the spiritual growth that comes from working the 12 steps. Never alone do we do this together and for each other, knowing that we need each other, because more than anything else, we grow with love. The preface, the basic text begins, "The fruit of our labor of love lives in the harvest, and that always comes in the right season. For us, the season has come." Would somebody please read Just for Today?
My name is Jim. I'm an addict.
Hi,
Jim.
Just for today, my thoughts beyond my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I'll have faith in someone in NA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I'll have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NA, I'll try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I'll be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who have found a new way of life. So long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, I guess let's introduce April. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is April, and I'm an addict.
Hi, April.
My family. Topic of this workshop is writing a tool in recovery. So I'm going to try to stay real focused on that and share my experience in regards to writing and how it's affected my recovery. I've never had a problem with writing because it's something that I enjoy doing, you know. But when it comes down to the inner issues of the heart, you know, what's really going on in the inside, sometimes that can be a little difficult, almost as difficult as actually telling someone what's really going on inside, because one thing I do know is after I put it on paper, it don't disappear. You know, I'm not able to grab my words back and say, what I meant to say was, you know. So when I'm writing about what's going on inside of me, when I'm done with that and I go back and look at it, it is exactly as it was, you know. And I see a lady there, she has a pen and paper, and that's a real good tool. I find sometimes I'm not willing to talk to other addicts, but I will start writing, you know, and that helps me to sort out what's really going on for me on the inside. And I wanted to share an experience about how writing has helped me specifically, give you something real tangible, specifically in my recovery, and that would be the steps. You know, a lot of people have different ways of working the steps, but one of the recommended ways to do it is to write them out. And the benefit in writing them out for me has been that it's given my thoughts some clarity. It's given me an opportunity to be as honest as I possibly can without feeling like I'm being judged right at that moment or being critiqued right at that moment. And I had a recent experience of writing out my fourth step. And this one particular day, let me give you some background. This is kind of hard, I guess, in a big room of people, but I honestly believe when I give all of me, I get all of me, you know. And one of the things that I have experienced using over was the guilt and shame of my past, which included aborting some children, to be real specific, and the pain that came with that. And because it went against everything that I had ever been taught, and I felt like I was just the scum of the earth, really, when it comes down to it. I had violated a lot of standards, and my standards and, all of that is involved in a decision like that. But one thing I couldn't figure out was, how did I actually get the nerve or the courage to go through something that was totally against all that I was, and I paid dearly for it. I used behind it for years. And I was writing on my fourth step, and I got to a point where I wanted to analyze my resentments with my father. Okay? And one of the things that I was able to, I didn't expect the blessing to come in writing about this, but one of the things that I revealed in that writing was that my mere existence, how I came about, my mother and his relationship, was one of them under the rug type of things. It was something that they both were very ashamed about, unwilling to talk to me about the details. And so I felt for a long time that my relationship with him was what it was, meaning lack of relationship was what it was, because he was ashamed of me. He didn't like the circumstances that surrounded that pregnancy. And I remember talking to the father of those children of mine, and we were on the phone, and I told him I wasn't going to go through with the abortion, and this would have been the first one. And he was telling me he's a drug dealer. At the time, he was a drug dealer, and we had been together for a while. And he was like, if you're willing to do something and I'm not okay with it, then F you. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't want to see you. Don't want to talk to you. Just F you. And I remembered through writing about my resentment with my father, at that point, it had never come back to me, was that in that telephone conversation, I came away thinking I will never bring a child into this world whose father didn't want it. That was awesome stuff for me, because right then and there I was able to make a connection. I was able to add that piece to that puzzle and get some understanding as to where I got that courage from. That's something tangible for me. And I felt a lot of release behind that. And I don't know about for anybody else, but I'm not trying to do this superficially. I'm not concerned with the surface of this stuff. If I'm gonna change, I'm gonna have to work the steps, and I'm gonna have to dig deep and get all of it out of me, And so for some people, you might not be okay with what I'm sharing about, but this is who I am. And I know that writing in that specific area was a tool in recovery for me. I was able to go on and finish that fourth step, and I've been able to work. I finished it finally. I've been able to do the fifth step, which is sharing the fourth step with another human being in God, and that is a major accomplishment. I mean, that is something like, I was like, oh my God, I'll never do it. I can't do it, because it means sitting up face to face with another human being, telling them all that garbage inside. And we talked about that particular area. And I was in the area, in the sense that I'm able to grow from it, is that I felt immediately like I was truly able to forgive April. I was truly able to forgive April, because if another human being had come up to me and told me the realization that I had, I was like, well, that makes sense. That's why you did it. That's why you had the courage to do it. I know there was fear and other things involved in it, but I'm talking about what gave me the courage to show up for those appointments and to follow through instead of running out of that building, and when I got that, it was like, I put the whole puzzle together, and I finally understood, and I finally got some peace of mind. When I think about writing, I don't do it every day. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that. I don't do it every day, but it's a tool that I use when I'm not ready to deal with another human being, and there's some stuff going on inside of me, and I need to get to the core of it. And one thing, too, is that I'm always able to revisit the things that I've written, you know, because I can go back and pull some stuff from when I was actively using, and most of my writing was about death and I wanted to die, you know, and that was just like the problem, you know, and now I can go back to some recent writings and I can see where I've been working on the solution. One thing that I think is real important for people that might be around these tables with limited education, maybe they think that writing isn't that great. In some instances may not even be able to write at all. That's the reality around these tables. This is reality in society, period. If that's where you're at, you need to have the willingness to ask somebody for some help. Because I know addicts personally that could not read. I'm not going to say they couldn't write, but they could not read. And generally that means write also. And through other addicts, they were able to learn the skill, okay? Just by being honest, they were able to learn. I mean, we got so much literature around here, it's crazy to think that you're not going to be able to, that you can get away without doing it in recovery. You need to be able to do those things. So honesty there, I guess, would be just letting people know where you're at and being willing to accept some help. And I guess that could be, you know, require some humility. But we don't have to do none of this alone, you know. We don't have to do any of it alone. I can't really think of anything more major for me that writing was able to help me in than that one area, you know. And with that, I'm keep coming back and keep writing as I need to write, and I'll pass.
I'm new at this, so please bear with me. Thanks, April.
Back, it gets better.
It gets better, okay. Okay, I'd like to introduce where we are then.
My name's Lori and I'm an addict. Man, either my knees are tall or this table's low. This is really weird that I'm here because I signed up for the other workshop about the fourth step. And an addict who knows me and who my sponsor is asked me to switch, so I did. Writing a tune in my recovery is a must. I've got a sponsor who basically told me, if you want me to sponsor you, you got to have a dictionary, paper, and a pen or a pencil. And I really thought that was strange. But as time went on, I understood why. There's nothing that I can go through, and this is for me, without writing it, looking at it, facing it, and talking to my sponsor about it to get rid of it, or another addict that's seeking recovery. I'm like April, I do not write on daily basis. I should. My sponsor suggested, but as an addict, I don't do everything that's suggested. When I'm going through a lot of turmoil or resentments in my life, I write. Probably not as much as I should, but I do write. And when I'm writing, I'm facing the situation. I'm acknowledging that there's a problem. And through my writing, I'm accepting inside that it's a problem. And in my writing, I don't write, so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. I write about what my part is in it. I write about, this is what I did. This is what I feel after I did it. And this is what I'd like to do the next time. Because I can only learn through my mistakes and everybody else's mistakes. It's suggested that we write on a daily basis to keep a journal. I have a really close friend of mine that in the beginning never wrote anything. And now she keeps a daily journal of things that are happening in her life, how she acted out on it, what she would like to do the next time this happens, and what her role is in it. Through this, and in the last 7 months, I've seen this addict grow tremendously, and it reminded me of what I went through my first 7 months of recovery. I didn't have a clue to what I wanted when I came around these tables other than a new way of life, a change of some sort. I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be accepted in the society today. I was not that at all. When I came through these doors, I judged everybody and everything. My sponsor said, write about it. We'll talk about it. And I really despised that. I hated it. I still hate to write today, but I'm really grateful for it, because if I don't write today, I'm not going to get through my steps. I don't believe there's for me, a verbal way of doing the steps. I truly don't believe that. An addict shared with me, well, I did my first step in 2 hours, and I said, and she said, with her sponsor, and I said, you wrote it out and went through it in 2 hours? She said, no, we did it verbally. And, the more I got thinking about that, for me, I can't do that, because I need to go back and look to see where I was, what I was going through, and how I dealt with it, and what did I want to change at that, what could I change at that time if it was brought up again. I've been avoiding my sponsor. She's been here since Friday night, and I've been avoiding her because I have to do my 8th step. And there's a lot of fear in that 8th step. And in the book it says, when you're on the 8th step, to stay focused on the 8th step, don't worry about the 9th. Well, I'm an addict. I'm going to look ahead. Well, gee, if I finish that 8th step, then I've got to go into the 9th, which is making these amends. That's where the getting humble really comes in. And I bet you there'll probably be some humiliation, because I'm ashamed of a lot of what I did. And I know that I'm not alone with a lot of that shame and guilt. But I know that today I need to get rid of that. And evidently it's time. Because after the speaker last night and being with other addicts today, and I was carrying a big guilt today, and I talked to this addict, and I feel much better now. And now I'm ready to face this 9th, because if that's just a glimpse of what can happen in the 9th step, then that's the least I can do for my recovery. If I stop writing, I'm going to stop growing. When I get sponsees, I keep telling them, write, write, write. I really need to back that up by doing it too, more than what I am today. I don't give my sponsees any work that I haven't done myself by suggestion of my sponsor. And I'm trying to make little changes by writing a little bit, even if it's 2 sentences. That's better than what it was yesterday, which was nothing. And today I've been writing a lot about feeling the feelings. Because I need to remember these feelings and what I did to get rid of the guilt, the shame, and anything else that came along with it. Most of all, I guess, the pain. I know when I did my 4th step and I wrote out my 4th step, it was a beautiful experience sharing it with the 5th step. Because I felt like 1,000,000 pounds were lifted off my shoulders. And I know if I wouldn't have wrote that out, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I think I had more pages to my 1st step than I did my 4th step. I was one of these addicts that went from the 1st step into the 2nd step, went back to the 1st step because I wasn't done. My mind said, hey, you got it mastered, you're done. But I wasn't. I went back and did some more work in the first step. And I'm real grateful that my sponsor gave me more work to do. Writing is my key to is the key to my recovery in this program. Whether it's copying stuff out of these books or feeling it from my heart and writing it down. That's how I've gotten where I am today, is by writing, by processing, and by talking about issues that I need to talk about. I know people in South Bend are pretty damn sick and tired of listening to the same old thing where I'm concerned, but I need to talk about whatever that is till it's gone. I used to sit back and think, oh no, here we go again with the same topic by other addicts. Today I don't do that. I try to look at that person and see what I can get out of it and write about what I got out of it. Even if it's the word powerless, you know, it's just something that's a necessity in my recovery. For anybody newer than myself, the suggestions that go around this program are excellent suggestions. They may not all apply, and that includes writing. It may not apply today, but it just might tomorrow. The open-mindedness and the willingness and the honesty is what gets you through all of it. I'm a people pleaser too. I heard April touch on that. I just went through that people pleasing mode, and I wrote about it and got rid of it for today. Today I don't need to hide behind my service work. I was treasurer for 4 groups, running for an area position and programming chair of this convention. But I wasn't hiding behind service work. Now, today, presently, my programming chair is up as soon as this convention's over and I turn in a report. And I am treasurer for my home group only. That's it. I shed that mask because if I didn't, if I hide behind one thing, I'm going to hide behind everything. I'm a little scared to let you guys know who I am. But with that fear, there's growth. And I know there is. There has been so far. You guys told me to keep coming back. I can share what I need to share at a table. That's what I've been doing. My sponsor tells me to write it. I do some of the things. I do write. May not be the right way, but I don't know that there is a right way. What's got me going in my program is journaling when I can. And keeping focus on what it takes for me today to be okay with me and not worry about anything out here. I'm very serious in the program with Narcotics Anonymous because I weighed 72 pounds when I came through these doors 2 years ago almost. I was ready to die. You people are what held me up. Last year's convention was my first convention ever. You guys gave me a great spiritual awakening here. That's why I want to keep coming back. And I want to keep every year seeing all these faces again. And I know there's a newcomer in this room. Welcome, and I hope to see you next year, and that's from my bottom of my heart. That's all I've got. Thanks.
I'd like to thank Lori and April for sharing their experience, strength, and hopes. Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everybody. Let's see, where is it at? Okay. Yeah, we're being taped, so if anybody has a problem with that, please let us know. We can shut the recorder off, or if you don't want to. But
Also, no smoking in any buildings, and please wear life jackets.
oh yeah, did everybody hear that? No smoking in the building, and please wear life jackets.
On the boats.
On the boats.
If you're not in a boat, you don't have to wear one.
Okay.
Go, Rick.
My name's Richard and I'm a grateful, slowly recovering addict.
Hi, Richard.
Been in and out of this program a long time, 26 years worth, and this disease has beaten me up enough times that, you know, I better get it right. I don't think I'll be alive a whole lot longer to give it another chance, you know. This writing thing, I've done it, you know. I've always had memory problems, you know. I'd write down stuff towards the first step, and I could tell you about this year, between this year and this year, this happened, and, you know, pretty haphazard, but, you know, if I stay clean long enough, I'm sure it'll clear up. But my problem is the people-pleasing part of it, you know. I'm afraid if I write it down, somebody else looked at it, they think I am loony, you know, and, you know, granted, you know, I'm not in the best state of mind from all that's happened, but, you know, I'm going to have to start listening to these suggestions if I ever want to recover. You know, there's a lot of fear, you know. I tried to do a 4-step, a thorough one, and everybody in my home group told me that I wasn't ready. And you know how stubborn recovering addicts are. I said, no, I got to get this done right now. I want to get better today, you know. And I did it, and all I had was this huge list of negatives, and I only had a few things on the positive. And I looked at this list, and it just, you know, gave me such a negative self-esteem of myself. It was terrible. Went into a state of depression. It was really, really bad. And, you know, I believe honestly, you know, this journaling thing, you know, for me, if I sit down all day, at the end of the day and in the evening, if I want to sit down and journal stuff, I honestly can't remember what happened over the whole day. So me, I guess I'll have to start carrying around a memo book or something. To be honest about it, you know, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the short-term memory loss for a while, but I'm going through that pretty good right now, and I got a new sponsor finally. You know, I had a bad experience with my first one, and that's over and done with, and I can pray for him, you know, because I don't want to see this disease kill him either, or anybody. But I do have a new one, and I'm going to listen to him, whatever suggestions he has, and anybody with, you know, any clean time that wants to make any suggestions that they think will help, I'm going to listen to them, because I know my way doesn't work. And I want to thank you all for being here. You know, the people said, we'll love you till you love yourself, and I'm very grateful to everyone here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Richard.
Anybody else like to share? Okay.
We knew this was going to be a tough one.
Well, okay then. I guess we can close with group hug in the Serenity Prayer.
Be the shortest tape on history.